Top stories tonight in Y News. The Commission on Elections is looking to review the election campaign rules, which prohibits physical contact under all alert levels.
The Commission on Elections have started its Operation Baklas to remove non-compliant campaign materials posted by political candidates across Metro Manila.
Local vaccine expert says that people who are unvaccinated against COVID-19 have higher risk of getting myocarditis from a COVID-19 infection as compared to those who are vaccinated.
U.S. President Joe Biden says American officials had not verified Russia's claim that it is pulling some troops back from Ukraine's border and that an invasion remains distinctly possible.
Good evening, Philippines and the world. We are now reporting live from Quezon City. Today is Wednesday, February 16, 2022. Join us in the next hour as we deliver today's top stories around the Philippines and in other parts of the world. I am Herlene Delgado.
We are also seen in 1,935 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and via live streaming worldwide through the UNTV News and Rescue social media accounts and our website, untvweb.com. I am William Teo.
First in the news. The Commission on Elections is open to reviewing its rules for in-person campaigning for the 2022 national and local elections, particularly on the prohibition in taking selfies and giving handshakes. Rosalie Cos will tell us why.
Two election lawyers have questioned the pandemic campaign protocols of the Commission on Elections. This is a week after the formal commencement of the campaign period for the national candidates on February 8.
May serious doubt ako sa legality of the provision doon sa 10730. Ang sinasabi ko sa kanila, mukhang may problem tayo dyan dahil wala namang specific provision ng Omnibus Election Code na nagpapunish ng violation kung hindi ka kukuha nung sa CCC ng permit. Yung Comelec Resolution 10732 rin, pati yung handshake, pati yung beso-beso, pati yung arm-to-arm, pati yung selfie.
Hugging.
May serious legal issue.
Attorney Garcia also mentioned the possibility of the rules being used for abuse and corruption, including the provision stated in Comelec Resolution number 10732 requiring physical campaigning to get prior approval from the Comelec Campaign Committees or CCC 72 hours before the campaign activities. Another election lawyer, Attorney Romulo Macalintal, pointed out that the campaign health rules of the Comelec are also too strict.
This is not within the power of the Comelec because hindi naman ito election laws. Under the Constitution, the Comelec is mandated to enforce election laws, rules, and regulations. Now, insofar as the protection of the people against COVID-19, yan naman ay covered na ng other agencies of the government. The Comelec has also designated all these agencies and so hindi na dapat nang nakikialam pa dyan ang Commission on Elections.
Former Comelec Commissioner Gregorio Larrazabal suggested to candidates and stakeholders to write to the Comelec about their complaint on the rules.
I would suggest na people, even the stakeholders, write Comelec to ask that it be re-examined. Para naman they can come up with amended guidelines.
This was also stated by Comelec spokesperson Director James Jimenez for the Bank to discuss. The Comelec is open to reviewing the guidelines for the in-person campaigning for the national elections. Comelec Acting Chairperson Socorro Inting said the Comelec resolution was crafted when several areas of the country were under strict alert level status.
There is a possibility that we will be downgraded to alert level 1. So maybe we will review our rules on campaigns. To be consistent with the alert level status.
Local candidates can begin their campaign period on March 25. Rosalie Cos, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Presidential candidate Mayor Isko Moreno says he will keep shaking hands with his supporters. This despite the campaign protocol set by the Commission on Elections that prohibits handshakes in campaign activities. Asher Kadapan Jr. explains why.
The government should reach out to the people. With this principle expressed by Manila City Mayor Francisco Isko Moreno Dumagoso, the presidential candidate also wants to let the people feel he is there for them. This is despite the protocols being implemented in campaigns to address health concerns due to the risk of COVID-19 infection.
Pipilitin namin at patuloy namin kikilalanin yung mga tagubilin, alituntunin ng halalan. Kaya mapapansin nyo, napaka-modest ng kampanya namin. But then again, ang gusto ko, lumapit sa tao. Dahil ang pinagkukuhanan ko ng lakas ng loob, taong bayan.
Based on the guidelines issued by the Commission on Elections, candidates are restricted to have physical contact to supporters, including shaking of hands, embracing, and taking of selfie pictures. Comelec spokesperson Director James Jimenez fears for another surge in COVID-19 infection from campaign activities.
Ladies and gentlemen, may pandemya pa po. Kaya nga mahalaga yung mga protections na nilalagay natin dyan. Kaya mahalaga yung mga restrictions na inilagay ng Comelec sa in-person campaigning. Totoo po that campaigns do have the potential to facilitate the transmission of COVID-19.
The Department of Interior and Local Government also warns candidates of case filing against violators. But Mayor Dumagoso says he will let such complaints to be handled by his lawyers.
They are entitled to do what they have to do. Our lawyers will handle it. I'll handle the people. Doon na ako sa taong bayan muna.
Today, the camp of Mayor Isko Moreno and Doc Willie Ong tandem visits some other parts of Laguna, while it is scheduled to go to La Union Province tomorrow. Asher Kadapan Jr., UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Authorities have started taking down election campaign posters that are either oversized or posted in restricted areas. Janice and Henta reports why.
The Commission on Elections, together with the Metropolitan Manila Development Authority, earlier inspect major roads in Metro Manila to check the compliance with the placement of campaign materials. MMDA's Oplan Baclas personnel dismantled some oversized campaign tarpaulins and posters along EDSA northbound lane, which was placed not in the common poster areas designated by the Commission. According to Attorney Jovencio Balangkit, the Assistant Regional Election Director of the Comelec NCR, on February 12, they've sent a notice to the camp of national candidates to dismantle their illegal campaign materials within 72 hours. Based on the Commission guidelines, campaign posters placed in private establishments and common poster areas should only be 2 feet by 3 feet in size, while campaign posters in the candidates' headquarters must only be 3 by 8 feet. Aside from this, campaign materials are only allowed to be posted at the common poster areas designated by the local governments and may also be posted in private establishments or houses with the owner's consent.
Nino-notify talaga sila para to give them the chance to remove. Ito, ginagawa nga natin para tayo nang magtanggal kung hindi nila tatanggal. Actually, yung response nila is, hindi kami yan, hindi sa amin yan. In fact, sinasabi pa niya na pinapatanggal na namin yan. Kaya lang siguro, hindi umabot na tanggalin nila. There are these posters na out there, these billboards na makikita natin. So that's parang committing an offense with impunity.
Aside from this, an owner of this volunteer center along EDSA Kamuning voluntarily removed its campaign tarpaulins displayed outside their office.
That's good, no? In fact, that's a compliance or notice, no? That for them to remove it. No? In fact, yung kung summary abatement nga yan, pwede namin talagang tanggalin kung pwede, no? But if the owner of those posters voluntarily remove that, or that's better, no? So in this case, tinatanggal nila as directed namin. Kung hindi nyo tatanggalin, kami magtatanggal yan. O voluntary na nilang tinanggal. So that's better.
The Comelec again reminded the candidates and supporters to follow the rules set by the Commission for a fair and clean campaign. Janice and Hente, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Commission on Elections and the Anti-Money Laundering Council will boost its monitoring of transactions online. Eileen Cerudo will tell us why.
The Commission on Elections, or Comelec, and the Anti-Money Laundering Council, or AMLAC, are gearing up for possible cases of digital vote buying and selling and electronic money issuers during the election period. AMLAC said banks and electronic money issuers can monitor the transactions of their customers.
Ang lahat po ng covered persons, pagka po sinabi natin covered persons, kasama na po dyan ang mga bangko at saka mga electronic money issuers like Paymaya and GCash. Sila po ay mandato, may obligado na magkaroon ng electronic monitoring system.
According to AMLAC, there are red flag indicators to detect questionable transactions, which include single large cash deposit followed by multiple cash transfer and withdrawals. Aside from single large cash deposit, inconsistent transactions unusual for their normal and everyday dealings can also be a red flag indicator. Other red flag indicators that can be linked to unlawful activities include structured cash deposits and money transfers, as well as the use of multiple accounts by a single transactor. AMLAC assured they will immediately investigate and verify suspicious transactions reported.
Kung meron po silang mga red flags na madidetect, meron po silang mga AML investigators and analysts sa kanilang hanay. And yun po ay magti-trigger ng kanilang mga analysts para mag-dig deeper or magtanong sa mga customers or maghanap ng mga informasyon sa mga customers nila kung bakit nagkaroon ng mga ganong transaction.
The agency also reminded voters to also report suspicious transactions online. It will also coordinate with other government agencies such as the National Bureau of Investigation and Comelec. Comelec also said digital platforms should also coordinate with authorities to assure fair campaign this election period.
Kami mismo, we have taken the initiative to discuss this matter with the e-wallet systems. No? And we're also bringing this up with different financial organizations, finance companies. But if you realize that the system itself is automated, then you know that there are ways to keep track of all of these transactions, even though they happen every second. Kaya nga, very important yung participation at cooperation ng mismong platform.
Under the law, voters proven to be involved in vote buying and selling will face imprisonment of up to 6 years. Comelec reminds Filipinos not to exchange their votes with anything because it holds the future of our country. Eileen Cerudo, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Commission on Elections, or Comelec Commissioner Amy Ferolino, stresses that the recent issues in Comelec will not affect the credibility of the 2022 polls. Dante Amento tells us why.
Commissioner Amy Ferolino allays the public's fear over the credibility of the May 9, 2022 automated national and local elections. Ferolino made the assurance over several recent serious accusations thrown to her by retired Commissioner Rowena Guanzon. Guanzon disclosed that Ferolino was deliberately delaying the resolution on the 3 consolidated disqualification cases of presidential candidate Ferdinand Marcos Jr. and a certain senator allegedly interfered on the case. Ferolino, on the other hand, explained that they are just minor issues.
By the issues that cropped up during the past days, it's just between some people and not the commission as a whole. The Comelec is composed of so many people, from the top up to the lowest employee.
Ferolino added the commission remains intact despite of what had happened.
Whatever the results will be, it's not dependent on a few people. We have the machine which remains impartial, and we have people on the ground who knows their job and who will continue doing their job without bias. So I think that's what's most important to this stuff.
Meanwhile, Commissioner Ferolino refused to respond on the call by Akbayan Group for her to inhibit in the deliberations of BBM's DQ cases before the unbank. However, Comelec spokesperson Director James Jimenez also clarified inhibition in a case solely depends on the commissioner whether to voluntarily inhibit or not.
Inhibition is not a novel thing. Hindi yan bagong pangyayari. And in many cases, many of our commissioners have inhibited whenever they felt that they would be unable to be fair in the resolution of the case before them. So let's wait and see.
Dante Amento, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Presidential candidate Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. campaigned in his home province of Ilocos Norte today, where he pledged to revive the Kadiwa store system known during his father's reign. Nel Maribohok will tell us why.
Presidential bet Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos is pushing for the permanent establishment of Kadiwa rolling stores in every barangays in the country. In a statement, Marcos said the Kadiwa store system enabled the public to buy goods at cheaper rates and the farmers to sell their crops without having to worry about transportation cost. The Duterte administration revived last year the Kadiwa concept that was introduced by the former senator's mother, former First Lady Imelda Marcos, to help bring down the prices of agricultural commodities. But Marcos believed there's still room for improvement in the program's implementation. Meanwhile, this afternoon, the tandem of Marcos and Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte Carpio held their caravan in the municipalities of Pagudpod, Bangi, Burgos, and Pasukin in Ilocos Norte. The home province of Marcos is hosting tonight the grand campaign rally of the BBM Sara Uniteam in Paway, Sand Dunes. Ilocos Norte Governor Matthew Joseph Marcos Manotoc assured the province full support for the Uniteam.
Ito pong Ilocos Norte na probinsya po natin ay hindi naman ganun karami ang boto, pero solid naman ang boto po namin, and I'm sure solid din ang boto ng Ilocandia para sa BBM Sara ticket.
Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Presidential hopeful and Vice President Leni Robredo believes that the country's climate change policy should be embedded in local government units. Harleen Delgado will tell us why.
As she continues her campaign in Western Visayas, presidential hopeful and Vice President Leni Robredo visited the famous island of Boracay in Malay Town in Aklan. There, Robredo said that the local government units should be capacitated in the climate change policy of the country. She also noted that the proper waste disposal and the hazards of natural calamities in the island should be looked into.
Umiiba na yung panahon at dapat yung mga polisiya natin hindi dapat static, dapat sumasabay siya. Sumasabay siya sa pangangailangan ng panahon. And yung mga plano, dapat kinakapacitate yung mga local government units para yung mga plano niya nakakapag-respond siya sa mga threats sa ating environment.
Robredo first went to the Ati community, which was one of the last places that her late husband, DILG Secretary Jesse Robredo, visited before his death in August 2012. The Vice President, together with her running mate, Senator Francis Pangilinan, also met with Boracay stakeholders and discussed the locals' opposition in the proposed Boracay Island Development Authority, or BIDA bill. Robredo believes the proposed measure should not become a law if the locals were not properly consulted and listened to.
Ang sinasabi nila, yung BIDA in itself, wala naman kami oposisyon, pero ayaw kasi namin na in the nature of a GOCC ito, mas gusto namin na mas regulatory. Pino-point out nila na kontra ito sa tenets ng decentralization under sa local government code. Nakikiusap tayo sa Congress na magbigay ng paraan para yung mga opposition ng mga taga dito ay mapakinggan.
The Leni Kiko tandem also visited the province of Antique, where they met with supporters and religious groups. Harleen Delgado, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God. Presidential candidate Manny Pacquiao sets his first on-ground campaign rally to meet with displaced vendors in Manila. JP Nunez will give us the details live.
Yes, Harleen, presidential candidate Manny Pacquiao boarded a PNR train to Santa Mesa, Manila to meet with displaced vendors affected by COVID-19 pandemic and the continuous clearing operations. If he will be elected as president, Pacquiao said he wants the Philippines to have bullet trains and vows to continue the Build, Build, Build program of the Duterte administration. Pacquiao and the president of Vendors Association signed an agreement that they will support his candidacy for the presidential race. They also signed the Pabahay form, which gathers data of poor Filipinos who have no permanent homes and in need of job or livelihood. Those who signed the form will be prioritized for the housing and livelihood program.
Ay, lahat naman nangangako. Ang akin, pangako ko sa kanila, nagbigyan ng pabahay. Ginagawa ko. Yung pangako ko, ginagawa ko. Yung mga pangako ng mga ganid ng mga politiko, walang nangyayari.
During his campaign rally in Santa Mesa, Manila, presidential candidate Manny Pacquiao took a selfie with his supporters, which is against the Comelec campaign protocol. Pacquiao explains that they may write a letter to appeal provisions of the campaign rules.
Ganon din yung iba eh. Kasi hindi mo kasi mahirap kasi tanggihan yung mga request ng mga tao. Pangit naman kung tatanggihan mo hindi naman tayo maka-Pilipino niyan. Ang Pilipino kasi accommodated at compassionate at nagmamahalan sa isa't isa. Kaya ipinakita lang natin yung tunay na pagka-Pilipino.
Harleen, tomorrow, Pacquiao is set to visit the province of Rizal for a courtesy call to some local chief executives and a motorcade campaign. That is our latest live. Back to you, Harleen.
Thank you, JP Nunez, reporting live from Quezon City. A vaccine expert says individuals who are unvaccinated against COVID-19 have higher chances of getting myocarditis or the inflammation of the heart muscles after a viral infection. Isko Miguel explains why.
The risk of having myocarditis due to COVID-19 is 4 to 8 times higher among the unvaccinated, regardless of age group. Myocarditis is the inflammation of the heart muscle and can happen after a viral infection such as COVID-19. Vaccine expert panel member Dr. Maria Wilda Silva said this can be prevented if people get their COVID-19 shot.
And this can happen after viral infection like COVID-19. It is very rare after receiving the mRNA COVID-19 vaccines. Myocarditis from a viral infection like COVID-19, this can be very severe. So that's 10 times higher risk of hospitalization from COVID-19 infection if you are unvaccinated. So the overall message here is don't miss your shot. Your heart is safer with COVID-19 vaccine.
Dr. Silva also said once an individual received the COVID-19 vaccine, the overall risk of myocarditis is extremely low, with a ratio of 1 in 200,000 population. The VEP also emphasized that myocarditis is more common among 12 years old and above who are unvaccinated compared to the 5 to 11 years old. However, the chance of having myocarditis among younger males is equivalent to the chance of being struck by lightning in one's lifetime. Vaccine expert panel chairperson and technical working group for COVID-19 vaccines Dr. Nina Gloriani also said that multisystem inflammatory syndrome in children or MIS-C can also be prevented through COVID-19 vaccination. The VEP will also review the World Health Organization's advice to extend the interval of COVID-19 vaccine primary series for minors.
Yung longer interval, that is known. We have known that a longer interval will give better immune responses. Now, for this particular issue, so maybe we can consider it, but we have to give to review the data that they have, na meron pala sila talagang study na pag binigay after 8 weeks weeks or 2 months ay better ang immune response. We have not seen that. So kung meron, sana na i-present na namin sa inyo, no? But wala so far sa ngayon. But maybe the SAGE, yung WHO group of experts have those data, which is why they say that.
Isko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
And fully vaccinated travelers will no longer be required to present negative RT-PCR test results to gain entry in Western Visayas. Isko Moreno will tell us why.
Fully vaccinated tourists, returning residents, and overseas Filipinos who are coming to Western Visayas may now enjoy the relaxed travel restriction. This was after the 6 provinces in the region scrapped their negative RT-PCR test or antigen test for travelers who received their complete dose of COVID-19 vaccine.
No more RT-PCR requirement for the fully vaccinated. But if you are not fully vaccinated, we will require RT-PCR.
Travelers just need to comply with the other requirements of LGU such as the S-Pass, Notice of Coordination, and valid IDs. Children below 5 years old are exempted since they are not yet allowed to be vaccinated.
Exempted na to ng below 5 years old because hindi mo man sila mabakunahan. So ang atong requirement of an RT-PCR sa mga hindi vaccinated is also an incentive so that people who come here magpabakuna sila.
Meanwhile, the healthcare utilization rate of the region dropped from 57.88% on January 30 to 47.52% on February 1. More COVID beds, ICU beds, and isolation are now available. Effective today until February 28, provinces of Aklan, Antique, Capiz, Negros Occidental, and Bacolod City de-escalate to Alert Level 2, while Guimaras, Iloilo City, and Iloilo Province remains under Alert Level 3 until the end of the month. Isko Moreno, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Philippines recorded 2,671 new cases of the novel coronavirus disease or COVID-19, pushing the nationwide case count to 3,644,597. Active cases have come down to 68,829. Among the active cases, 63,037 are mild, 2,920 are moderate, 1,433 are severe, 1,130 are asymptomatic, and 309 are in critical condition. Meanwhile, DOH said that all labs were operational on February 14, 2022. However, 6 labs were not able to submit their data to the COVID-19 document repository system. On the other hand, the agency also reported 6,130 new recoveries, bringing the total to 3,520,545, or 96.6% of the total number of cases, while 77 more have died from COVID-19, bringing the death toll to 55,223, or 1.52% of the total number. Meanwhile, the overall global COVID-19 caseload has topped 415,769,578, while the deaths have surged to 5,839,809, according to the Johns Hopkins University. The U.S. is still the worst hit country with the world's highest number of cases and deaths at 78,039,888 and 925,560 respectively, followed by India with 42,723,558 cases and 509,872 deaths. In terms of deaths, Brazil comes second with 640,076 fatalities.
For the news abroad, NATO members keep their guards up against Russia over its possible threat of invasion on Ukraine. Joselito Liquido will tell us why live. Good evening, Joselito.
Good evening, Elsie. NATO officials emphasized that the threat of Russian invasion on Ukraine remains imminent after Russian troops continue to build up near the borders of Ukraine. NATO on Tuesday stated that they have cautious optimism after Russia announced the departure of some of its troops from the border. However, U.S. President Joe Biden, in response to Russia's announcement, said that no verification has been made that any of the 150,000 Russian military units have returned back to their home base.
That would be good, but we have not yet verified that. We have not yet verified the Russian military units are returning to their home bases. Indeed, our analysts indicate that they remain very much in a threatening position.
Russian President Vladimir Putin has consistently denied any attacks against Ukraine, according to him, to his meeting with German Chancellor Olaf Scholz. However, Putin is demanding an assurance from NATO that Ukraine will not be joining the organization. Putin states that Ukraine's alliance with NATO is a significant threat against Russia's security. NATO has since rejected this demand, emphasizing that no one is threatening Russia. Biden in his statement continues to give Russia its right to diplomacy, but if Russia decides to attack Ukraine, NATO members will promptly respond. Elsie?
Joselito, are there other plans from the U.S. government at the moment?
Elsie, Biden said that his administration is currently working on contingency plans in case of supply issues with producers and shippers. He also added that the allies and partners will continue to conduct military exercises to maintain and improve defense readiness. Back to you, Elsie.
Thank you, Joselito Liquido, for that live report. Juan Orlando Hernandez, a former president of Honduras, surrendered on Tuesday, a day after the Honduras Foreign Ministry formally requested a provisional arrest in the aim to extradite Hernandez. The former president affirmed that he is ready to collaborate. Hernandez, 53-year-old, faces drug trafficking and weapons charges, where he reported received funds as bribes in exchange for protection. Hernandez left his office after 8 years last month, where he was replaced by Xiomara Castro. The Honduras Supreme Court is expected to rule the extradition request, which will last between 2 to 3 months. The New Zealand Parliament has passed a law that will ban conversion therapy with support of nearly all MPs in the House. Last Tuesday evening, the law, which makes it a criminal offense to attempt to change or suppress a person's sexual orientation or gender identity through the harmful therapy practices, was passed. Rainbow members of the House thanked the activists, academics, and colleagues for their work getting the bill over the line and into the law. The government said it had received nearly 107,000 public submissions on the bill, the highest number of public submissions ever received on any legislation. Banning conversion therapy was one of Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern's election promises. A study has found that extreme temperature variation is making it more difficult to predict the consequences of climate change on disease transmission. Mavian Dog will tell us why live. Yes, Maeve?
Elsie, while it is well known that host-pathogen interactions are sensitive to changes in temperature, the effects of sudden temperature variations on infection rates and disease outcomes are largely unknown. According to Professor Papane Lubics, co-first author of the study published in the journal eLife, it is predicted that climate change will increase average temperatures and its fluctuations, and the frequency and intensity of extreme weather events such as heat waves. The study found that daily temperature fluctuations reduce the infectivity of a parasite on a host organism compared to those kept at the constant average temperature. After a heat wave, however, the infectivity of the parasite was almost the same as the infectivity of those kept at the constant temperature. Other findings also suggest that the parasites were able to withstand sudden changes in heat better than their hosts under some circumstances. Overall, Professor Lubics concluded that changing patterns of climate variation may have complex and unanticipated effects on the transmission of diseases. Elsie?
Thank you, Mavian Dog, reporting live from Australia. And those are the reasons behind the news in other parts of the globe. I am Elsie Marcos, live from Auckland, New Zealand. Good evening.
And before we close, we will leave you with a word, giving glory to God. From the book of Proverbs, chapter 23, verse 12. It says, "Apply thine heart unto instruction, and thine ears to the words of knowledge. And those are the reasons behind the news, February 16, 2022. Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I'm Herlene Delgado.
And because we need to know, we will always ask why. I am William Theo. We serve the people. We give glory to God.